What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Corey's Garage, brought to you by Reese Motorsports, home for the Franken-7 drift car project. I'm your host, Corey, and just wanted to give you guys a quick little update. It was Sunday, now it's Monday. It's about 3:45 in the morning. I should probably be in bed, but this is normally the time I'm kind of up and getting ready for bed anyways, but every other weekend I have a 3-day weekend. So this was Sunday and now it's going into Monday, so I actually have one more full day off before I return back to work. So yesterday and a little bit of today was spent working on my father-in-law's car, getting him squared away. Had to put some struts, shocks, tensioner, like belt tensioner, belt, and an intermediate shaft on his car. So we got him back on the road today, and then I was able to do a little work on the RX-7 tonight. I was still scratching my head over what's been going on with this thing not running. I got my Lingenfelter TRG-002 conversion module in and plugged up, and I still wasn't getting it to fire up. And I'm still waiting on new O2 sensors, new air inlet temperature sensor, and a map sensor. But from what I understand, it should be able to fire, even if just for a couple minutes, or just a moment or two, really, just to hear it actually run. But I was curious though if I was actually getting fuel to it. You could turn the fuel pump on, you can hear it flowing, but I never actually pulled the line off the front going to the fuel rail or even going to the fuel filter to see what was going on there. So just for curiosity's sake, I unplugged it at the fuel rail on the engine side, turned on the fuel pump, or put an empty bottle of water underneath it, turned on the fuel pump, and waited probably 30 seconds and never got a drop of fuel out of it. So I thought, oh, maybe I was not getting fuel, and I thought I was. Maybe that was the issue this whole time. So anyways, I went pretty much back to the pump, and I could feel the line, vibrating somewhat. So I knew it was getting out, but somewhere it was getting stopped up. I didn't remember there being a kink in the line anywhere, but I just went checking. I had a lot of gold tape towards the front for that heat barrier tape to protect the fuel lines. So I had to go and take all that crap off. So I'll have to go and redo that later. But anyways, come to find out, the Corvette fuel filter, and it doubles as a fuel pressure regulator, but it's a fuel filter with an inlet and outlet, and then a third bung, I guess, for fuel return. Well, apparently I had those two flopped around. So I had my fuel going into the fuel return instead of the actual inlet valve, but they're not labeled in my defense. So the pressure was building up because that valve is like a one-way checked valve, essentially. So the fuel was pumping, and it was building up all this pressure in the line, and I noticed the little rubber line, I couldn't really compress at all. It was very hard. And then when I loosened up clamp, it just started, releasing the pressure. So then I was like, oh, what the hell, let's just switch the lines and see what happens. And so when I did that, hooked everything back up, went to prime the fuel system again, and guess what? Boom, we got fuel pressure. So then I was like, well, I guess now would be a good time to check to see if my rails are good, my fittings are good, my connections are good. So hooked it back up to the fuel rail, did the same thing, and the passenger side rear, I guess the last injector wasn't seated all the way, so it was spraying out of there. So I basically kind of had to reseat all those injectors. And then it seemed it was okay, but then that front fitting on that rail where the crossover tube is was ever so slightly starting to seep. So I had to tighten that back up, and then that made the same thing on the other rail start to seep. So it was good to go ahead and get those fixed, and I'm glad it's got fuel pressure now. It really made me want to, try to start it again tonight. But one, there was a lot of fuel on the ground, so I had to find some rags and old t-shirts and stuff to soak that up. And two, is very late by the time I got that sorted. So no test to start up tonight, but tomorrow we will. So I've been the last little bit fabbing up the rear brake line for the hydraulic handbrake, and get as far as to have all my flares, all my fittings, everything's together, and I'm tightening on the fittings onto the actual lines on the calipers themselves, and the fittings I have are just one size too small, so I'm trying to crank them down and they keep popping off, and that's very frustrating because I spent a lot of time and made some beautiful flares, and now I basically have to remake them again, but that's alright, there's worse things. I'll just have to get some more fittings tomorrow, I guess, but that'll be fine. It'll give me a chance to see if there's anything else I can't live without. But this thing is getting so close, guys. Especially now knowing that I wasn't even getting fuel the whole time. That gives me a little ray of hope that maybe it would have ran. I just didn't have fuel going into it. So, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously, you still need those sensors to run well. And I still need to make the exhaust, but it was kind of fun. I did have it on the ground for the first time in like 2-3 months. And, you know, yesterday, because I was using my jack stands on my father-in-law's car, so this had to go on the ground. So I just kind of left the coilovers where they were out of the box. I was curious to see where it was going to sit, and the front was actually okay. There was maybe, you know, 3/4 of an inch of a gap between the tire and the fender, but the rear had like, you know, at least 2 fingers worth or so. So probably a couple inches, depending on how sausage-like your fingers are, like mine. And so, yeah, so I'm going to probably crank those down 2 finger lengths worth and put it on the ground again tomorrow and see how it looks. But it looked pretty sweet. I had a few little doubts about these tri-spoke Mustang wheels, but it actually looks pretty good with it on the, you know, on the ground and filling up the tire well, or the wheel well and all that. But it doesn't have enough rubber on it. It honestly doesn't. It's a 215/45. It probably realistically needs like a 235 or at least a 245, something like that. Maybe a 245/40 if they make that, or 235/40, something like that. That's what I'll go for next time. These are just a little too skinny. I'm afraid if this thing, once it's actually running well and making good power, it's just going to be all over the place. So these Lexani $183 for 4 tires will probably make very good drift tires. But that's probably all they'll do. So, anyways, just want to give you guys a little update. I know it's slowed down a lot since going back to work and all that good stuff, but we're so close, and I'm trying so hard to hang on and not lose motivation and not lose, you know, just drive and gump for this thing, because I was starting to get kind of down that it wasn't starting after all this work and all this building, and you know, now discovered that it wasn't getting fuel the whole time. So maybe that was it. Maybe I don't want to say maybe I didn't have to buy certain things, but either way, I just hope it runs, and I hope it runs well, and hopefully you guys will be there to hear it and see it. But I guess everyone will be keeping your eyes out. This thing's going to be on the road here, hopefully really soon. I'm not going to give out any specific dates because that's just not how I roll, because as soon as you try to put something in concrete, something's going to come up. So I'm hoping maybe have this thing starting and running tomorrow. We shall see. It would be great for that to happen and be able to maybe drive it around my neighborhood and shift gears and just to see how things are rolling and working. I still got to make an exhaust for it. That's what I was hoping to do this weekend. We'll see how far I get tomorrow. I might get started on that project. If I work as late as I did tonight, I might get that part done. But right now, tonight, it was not a good idea to do any welding because, like I said, there was a lot of fuel everywhere. And we all know that fuel and spark creates combustion, and we don't want that happening in the garage, in the floor, on this car. We want the car engine to have internal combustion, but we don't want fire in the garage. That would not be good. So, anyways, tomorrow we will have the door open most of the day to let these fumes air out. But I got rid of the soak-up rags, if you will. Sorry, I'm rambling. It's late. yeah, so stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some good news for you guys for tomorrow, and we will talk to you then. Goodbye.